Hello, and welcome to our latest talent webinar series, Taking Your Career to the Next Step in the UK, which I'm very excited to host. My name is Liz Jones. I'm Managing Director at People to People UK, and today I'm joined by a few of our team members of our London team. Hannah Scanlon, who's going to take us through some top tips on creating the best CV that's going to get you the job. Sam Tilby, who's going to talk to us about identifying transferable skills for a successful job change. And we have Maddie Lang, who's actually arrived in London this week from our Sydney, Australia team. And Maddie's going to talk to us about her experience and what to expect with the move to the UK. But before we get into that, let me take you through a bit of a UK market update and some of the key findings from our latest market report. Okay, so the UK economy has continued to recover since the COVID pandemic in 2022, with a GDP growth of 4% in 2022. Unemployment remains low at 3.8%. Predicted 5% annual employment growth to 2025. Inflation, obviously a really rising concern, with the consumer price index reaching 10.1% in March. So that's up 8.7% from the 12 months prior. Overall, though, the UK labour market remains strong and is predicted to continue to grow. So in 2023, 6% of employers are expecting a rapid growth. 63% are expecting a steady growth in the business. 12% are expecting a stable growth. And then for job seekers, and I find this figure incredibly scary, 65% are actively looking for opportunities. So if you look around at your colleagues or your businesses, we've got 65% of job seekers that are looking for opportunities, or passive job seekers, I should say. So this year, I guess there's a really unyielding focus on talent attraction and retention. It's going to be essential to ensure that organisations can continue to perform in the current market. So if we want to take a look at why employees are quitting, so one of the biggest ones, clarity on work priorities. Employees are 7 times as likely not to look for a job if there's clarity on what your responsibilities are. 66% would stay longer if it was easier to change jobs internally. 81% would stay longer if they had more help to prioritise their workload. So definitely a pinch on, or a shortage of candidates, I should say. And 70% or 76% of Gen Z and millennials aspire to pursue side hustles in the future. And then moving on to what talent attraction looks like in 2023. So 36% of hiring managers say that they've hired temporary or contract workers to fill an immediate need. So if they're looking for permanent, they need somebody to fill it straight away. They're putting a temporary or contract worker in there. 64% of hiring managers are making temporary and contract positions more attractive to people by offering more incentives such as flexibility, increased hourly rates, or extra benefits that typically would only apply to permanent positions. We've got 56% of hiring managers who have lost candidates to lack of speed. I think the average time to fill right now is 6 weeks for a permanent position, and the average hiring process for candidates is about 2.8 steps, or 2 to 3 steps. The average number of weeks to fill a position, as mentioned, is 6 weeks. Finally, let's look at some salary, at the increases and benefits that's happening for 2023. So 31% of job seekers are satisfied with their salary. 21% are saying that it isn't in line with the market. 36% are saying it doesn't reflect their performance or workload. 35% are expecting an increase reflective of the inflation rate. And 32% of hiring managers are planning increases to match that inflation rate too. So it's not far off of what the expectations are with job seekers. In terms of the benefits that are most wanted in 2023, so rising in importance, we can see that insurances, career development and flexibility and bonus is on the way up. That's what's most important to people. Losing importance, things like car parking, company paid training, work location, which is probably indicative of the post-COVID hybrid working. And in terms of the flexibility that's most important to people, so 39% of job seekers have asked for more flexibility during job interviews. 70% of these requests have been well received. We've got 57% of job seekers or advertisements had unclear workplace flexibility options. So it's really when you get to that interview stage that they're talking about flexibility. 61% of those are requiring further details and 39% are not mentioning any flexibility at all. 72% of job seekers would consider a job that doesn't offer any home options, and 79% of employees value flexible work hours as essential, followed by flexible work location, flexible work days, and an interest in the 4-day working week is on the rise. So that is it in terms of the market update. Now let's hear from Hannah Scanlon to take us through how to create a perfect CV.
Hello everyone. So I'm just going to go through some top tips on how to create a standout CV, especially in 2023, when it's really important to make a standout first impression. So starting from blank page, the first tip that I have is to make sure that you start with a really clear and concise header that includes firstly your name, your contact information, and your professional title. It's a very good place to start. Secondly, I would advise by writing a short and snappy statement that is either a personal statement or a professional summary of your skill set that highlights any key skills, experiences, and career goals for the future. This should always tend to go at the top of your CV so that it sets the tone. I appreciate that CV is also most commonly known as resume internationally as well, but they're interchangeable. Most commonly in the UK, it's known as CV. So when it comes to organizing the rest of your CV, I would advise splitting it up into logical sections. So the first should be education, second, work experience and skills, third, achievements and any additional information. Always make sure that your most recent experience goes at the top of your CV. It should read most recent and so forth all the way back to your earliest experience at the bottom of your CV. You want to demonstrate what you've been doing most recently to employers so they can see straight away what job you're currently in and what you're looking to do next. So when breaking down your current work experience and any previous, the most current work experience should have the most detailed points. You're doing that job at the moment, you want to show off your skill set and what you're doing. So breaking that down, you should use bullet points to describe your responsibilities, your accomplishments in that role, and any contributions that you've specifically made that is worth shouting about, especially emphasizing any measurable outcomes as well. So we're using data or percentages or figures, depending on what industry you're in, that will obviously vary, but that's really important to make sure that you can see some really specific measurable outcomes in your experience. Now, each CV that you make, and I should say each CV, because when you're applying to different jobs, if you really want to make a standout, it's important to tailor your CV to each specific role that you're applying for. And the reason why that is because you want to hire any relevant skills and experiences that align with the requirements of the position that you're hiring for. Each position you're applying for may vary in terms of responsibilities and requirements. Therefore, your experience may want to focus on one specific area more than another. It's really important when you're looking at a job that you want to apply for to never fabricate your experience to match that role. You should only include experience that you have genuinely had, and you can make that as relevant as you want to this position that you're applying for. It's also worth noting that when you're applying for jobs, especially in a day and age where we're using AI a lot more, you want to include relevant keywords throughout your CV. So especially in the experience and the skill set sections that I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you're putting very sort of buzzwords or keywords relevant to your industry in those sections. Especially if you're using an applicant tracking system to apply, those will pick that up and that will drive you to the top of the list. As I mentioned earlier, quantifying your achievements wherever possible throughout your CV, not just in your work experience, your skills, your education, especially if you've got a first in your degree, you want to be noting those things down. It's your chance to shine, so make sure you do shout about your experiences. Some people aren't as good as others as doing that, so make sure you do really shine in your experience and pick yourself up. It's your chance to go for it. So any additional specific qualifications that you might have done outside of your normal education pathway or certifications that you've taken on as part of your industry specific job, definitely put those on there as well. That's always key. The layout should always be, in general, very clean, very professional looking, easy to read, and using a consistent font and a size throughout your CV just makes that look even more attractive than normal. My top tip, if you work in an industry such as design or marketing, think outside of the box when marketing yourself and your CV, because if you work in marketing or social media, you don't want to just use a normal Word document format. It doesn't stand out, and employers aren't going to see that creative edge. So especially for creative industries, think about your use of color or your use of layouts to make it stand out from the crowd. Once your CV is all ready and done and you feel very happy with the content of it, it's really important to proofread. If you've got someone at home that can help and look over, or a peer or a colleague, probably not a colleague is the best idea if you're looking for a new job, actually. Apologies, my error there. Make sure that you proofread your CV thoroughly. You can use apps such as Grammarly, which is a really good app, especially if English isn't your first language. You can put the content of your CV in there and it'll check for grammatical errors as well as spelling errors too. When your CV is done and you've been applying, if you do achieve a new role and you want to move on to the next one, it's always important to keep your CV up to date. People tend to only update their CV when they're looking for roles, but I personally think if you're really wanting to excel in your career, make sure you keep that constantly up to date, and it'll be much easier when you're going forward for your next position. Your CV always also needs to be in an easy to read and an easy to accept format. And what I mean by that is a PDF format or a Word document if you can't go to PDF. PDF is the most common, I would see, and I think it's the best in terms of everyone is able to access it. So just bear that in mind. And those are my top tips. We do have a section at the end to be able to ask questions. So if anyone has any questions relating to CVs, then please stay on and we'll answer them shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. That's really insightful tips there. So if you want to get in touch with Hannah or learn more, please, her contact details are on the screen now, so please get in touch with her. And now I'm going to hand over to Sam Tilby, who's going to talk to us about identifying transferable skills for a successful job change.
Hey there, team. How you doing? Thanks for Liz. This is quite the interesting topic for me specifically, coming from a sporting background and recently making a change into recruitment. So these kind of transferable skills have been really, really massive. So I'm just going to go through some of like my top ones. So essentially a hit list of things I think you should consider trying to upskill with, and this is applicable to both job seekers and hiring managers alike. So number one, which I've kind of rounded to a few things altogether. So our problem solving, analytical skills, and critical thinking. These skills help you identify problems and you're able to find creative solutions. Part of your problem solving skills, kind of taking the larger problem, breaking it down into smaller problems, able to identify those solutions. Put another way, just finding logical solutions to any problem that a company may have. Like problem solving, analytical reasoning, and critical thinking is the evaluation of information and your ability to make a judgment and kind of choose a course of action. It's more than just reading something and saying, well, this could be true. It's like looking at the evidence and evaluating it to help you decide, is this information helpful, and what does this information tell me about what decisions I have to make going forward. Next up on the hit list, just some kind of key kind of personality traits. So leadership, and then working that in with teamwork and your ability to build relationships. So leadership includes, your ability to lead projects to assist the team with shared company goals. Leadership encompasses, I guess, many additional transferable skills like teamwork, like relationship building. So they kind of go quite well in all together. teamwork means working together as a team. It's nice and simple. People very rarely are working these types of roles individually. Being a part of a team, employers want people who are able to show up, work collaboratively to accomplish those goals. They want team players, people who make positive contributions and help the team succeed. That goes importantly into a person's ability to build relationships. Often enough, it's a differentiating factor. If somebody is able to kind of make those key relationships, come across likable, come across as a good team member, especially in those kind of initial interview stages, it really is important. Move along. So number 3, so adaptability. So you may have kind of some prejudgments about what a new industry would look like if you're kind of changing roles. You may think of you may need to learn a new skill to help get the new job done. What we find is pivots often happen in business, whether it's promotion, a lateral movement, or a complete change altogether. Demonstrating that you can be adaptable, you can change, shows you're able to go with the flow, I guess, while maintaining a positive attitude to new challenges and being open-minded with those challenges. Biggest transferable skill for me is communication. Whether it's on the sporting field, in the office, starting a new role, being able to communicate is relevant in all aspects of all roles. Having a good ability to communicate is almost every job. So your communication skills are your ability to share your ideas, your ability to get the information across, and making sure that is in a clear, concise, and easy to understand manner. You need the ability to communicate effectively and efficiently, so that whoever you're communicating with understands the message and understands what you're actually asking. And then lastly, computer skills, biggest one in this forever changing industry. You may not be the biggest tech head, but it's a good idea to know your way around an ever-changing landscape of softwares, from something simple like Microsoft Office, Microsoft Suite, taking some online courses with Excel. I think would really be something to push your CV and push your kind of experience further. If you know how to work in one type of spreadsheet, the odds are pretty good you're able to figure out a new system as well. So just being adaptable and learning new skills, especially in this tech world, especially with the use of with AI and everything, with how it's progressing forward. So getting your head around what that involves, and upskilling yourself. And there's so many different avenues that you can actually do that. Something as simple as watching a few YouTube videos. It's just about putting in the time to actually do it. So if you have any questions further, or if you feel like I've missed something, or you have something that you feel is a really big transferable skill within your industries, drop a comment, and we'll address that at the end as well.
Thank you, Sam. I think you're the perfect example of somebody who has switched industries. So you have the transferable skills coming from that professional sports background and then into recruitment. So I think that's a really interesting topic for you. I think if you want to get in touch with Sam, please, his contact details are on the webpage now. So please get in contact with him. And I'm going to hand over to Maddie Lang now, who has joined us from Australia and started with us just this week. So she's going to be talking about her experience and what to expect with the move to the UK from Australia.
Thanks, Liz. So as Liz mentioned, I recently have joined our people-to-people team here in London, and I was actually had the great opportunity to transfer from our people-to-people team in Sydney. So no matter how you change jobs, moving abroad is definitely a big change. I was lucky enough to come with my business, so it's a little bit more comfortable. But today I'm going to go over a few tips on what to expect when moving abroad and how to navigate your job search. So I guess firstly and most importantly, before you start applying for jobs abroad, make sure you do your research. You want to have a really good understanding about locations, so where you will be living and how you may travel to work, as well as how comfortable you will be with traveling to work. For myself in Sydney, it was a 20-minute commute to get to the office. Here in London, it's a little bit further, but the expectation is, with locations, I had a really good understanding about, well, how I would be getting to work. Secondly, it's always a really good idea, and I guess understanding to know what roles you will be looking for and what you will be applying to. So you don't necessarily want to be applying to jobs that may be scarce within the job market, and salary expectations may not match what you're looking for. So really know what kind of jobs you're looking for and what your expectation is as a salary. So when you go into your job search, you're fully prepared. And I guess that moves on to my next key point. So preparation is really important. So as soon as you all arrive in a new country, try to organize a local phone number and make sure it's attached to your CV or your applications. If you don't have a current phone number, WhatsApp is a really good tool, and just make sure you do highlight this on your CV or with your cover letter or your email within your applications, because unfortunately, if you can't get in contacted, it will really hinder your job search. And as a recruiter, our first point of contact is always to pick the phone up and call someone. So make sure you're ready and prepared with that information as soon as you do arrive. And next thing is to set realistic expectations. I really want to highlight this because, when you do move overseas and abroad, you really need to have a good understanding about, well, what your skills are, like Sam said, transferable, having your CV prepared, but also having the expectation on, well, what you will be suitable for. So you may have really strong, transferable skills that are really hireable, a great CV, but different countries do look for different skill sets and have different roles available. So you want to make sure you're targeting the roles that are relevant for you where you are moving. There's often, training involved as well when hirees do hire someone who has experience that may be from other industries or countries. So really have that expectation that if you are starting with a business, you want to do everything you can to set yourself ahead of the crowd. When applying for new jobs as well, you really need to have an understanding about your salary expectations. So, as an example, salaries in Australia are on average much higher than they are here in the UK. So when you are going forth and seeing what your salary expectations are, it's not as easy as just doing a conversion and seeing what the current rate is. You need to go online, have a look at jobs that are advertising, reach out to some recruiters and get an understanding from them. Okay, well, if I'm doing an administration role, what would that pay be in London versus what you may be getting paid in Sydney? Because unfortunately, the translation isn't as easy as doing a conversion. So know what your value is and what you're going to target, but make sure you're not underselling yourself or overselling yourself when you are first arriving for a new role abroad. Really good as well to update your location. So when you are applying for roles on your CV, highlight if you're still applying hypothetically from Sydney to the UK, when your date will be that you'll be in London. You can update this on LinkedIn as well, because it's a really good tool for recruiters and hiring managers to have an understanding about, well, when you will be in a country and what their expectation is as well. Lastly, and always important, communication and be transparent. Searching for a new role, especially when it is abroad, can be really overwhelming. And so if you're working with a recruiter in the process, let them know where you're up to with your job applications. Be honest and transparent with them. If you haven't been able to secure accommodation yet, if you're moving around, let them know where you're up to so that they can, best manage your job search as well. I think it's always important when you do arrive in a new country, you want to have a bit of time off and get familiar with the location. So set that expectation with your job search that, although you may be arriving at a certain date, you do want a couple of weeks off to get comfortable and be able to then get into your role and, perform to the best that you can. And I guess most importantly, take the leap. It's something new. It's a great adventure. So I think moving abroad is such an enriching and valuable experience for your personal, but also career growth. And it's a great opportunity. So have a look, talk to some recruiters. You can reach out to everybody via LinkedIn, connections that you may have as well. It's a great opportunity. So take advantage of it, and obviously reach out to us if you have any questions, if you want to know about my personal experience. As well, if you have any plans on moving abroad, P2P have offices in Australia and New Zealand. So we've got some really good teams out there who would be more than happy to assist and can give you any advice that you do need.
Thank you, Maddie. I love those tips. A lot of them resonate with me because I also made the move from Australia to the UK in October last year, and with People to People as well. So a lot of that resonated with me. And if you want to get in touch with Maddie, please, her details are on the screen right now, so you can contact her directly. So thank you very much, team, for those insights. I'm going to open it up to the audience now for some questions. I think we've got a question coming through here now. Okay, I think this one's directed for you, Hannah. So are there big differences what people expect to see on a CV in the UK if you're coming from Australia?
I would say I haven't noticed a massive difference between the types of CVs from Australia to the UK. I think as long as the formats are in there, I think actually Brits really love Australian and Aussies and Kiwis coming over. So actually, you're probably at an advantage leaving your where you've moved over from and keeping it on there. But other than that, there's no real major differences. No.
And this question is from Raja. So thinking of coming over to the UK, what would you say is your biggest regret, or what would you have done differently? So I think this one's directed for you, Maddie.
Sorry, I was just unmuting myself, the virtual world. Look, to be honest, for me, I don't have any regrets, and I don't think I personally would have done anything differently, but I definitely was prepared. I've had a lot of friends and colleagues who have had the move, and I guess biggest things people tell me is when you do make that move, make sure you take time off. I had about 4 weeks off, which was really great, so I got to get comfortable with London, do some travel, and really feel like, you know, where I'm living is my home now. I think if you come and jump straight into work, that comfortability is lost and you may not be as quite prepared. So I think if you do make that move, give yourself some time off and, you know, make sure as well you have some savings behind so you're not too stressed about having to start work straight away. You want to be able to get there and enjoy where you are, because once you start work, that time probably won't be as free and available.
Absolutely. Thanks, Maddie. And this one's from Jamie. So a bit late to ask this, but earlier on the podcast, you mentioned flexible working being a big thing for job seekers. Here in New Zealand, I'd say it's almost a must-have benefit, almost more important being offered than a pay rise. So what would you say is offered in the UK? So I'll add a comment to that. I think that COVID has changed the way that we're working. And I think the hybrid working, there is an element there that it is the expectation, but we're definitely seeing from employers that are hiring and also from job seekers that are coming back into work or changing jobs, that there is a little bit of a shift there as to go back into the office. So there is more requirement of employers wanting people to come back into the office. That's not to say that hybrid working is disappearing. I don't know if it will ever disappear entirely, but certainly I think there's a push for people to have that consistency. So maybe a hybrid working where they have set days in the office and then they're doing a couple of days from home. So there is still flexibility, but they do want people, I guess, in the office a little bit more. And this question is from Anna. So any recommendations on how you can keep your transferable skills up to date? I think this one's for you, Sam.
Yeah, so in terms of keeping transferable skills up to date, I think just actually utilizing different kind of platforms that there are out there. Something as simple as a YouTube video can teach you more than you need to know in terms of something like Excel or some kind of computer skill. There are just such a plethora of like resources actually out there to help you, and just have a look at in terms of like what industry you want to go into, what do you think the relevant skills are, and then go and try and make improvements based on what you find.
Do we have any other questions? I think there's one more question come through from Xanthi. So are there big differences between what people expect? Oh no, this is the same question that's come through. Here we go. That might just be a glitch on the system, technology. So Gareth, thank you for your question. What are the prospects of applying for a job in New Zealand before moving over? Or is it best to apply in the UK? Who would like to answer that question? Maybe Maddie.
Yeah, I can. So, I mean, definitely from my experience when I was working in the Sydney team at People to People, we'd often be contacted by people from New Zealand or the UK planning to make the move. I think always really good to get ahead of the game. I think for us as a recruiter, one of our really big benefits are if you're applying to a job in a country where you're not currently located, we can work in real time for you. So organize a time to catch up and have a discussion with a recruiter in New Zealand, for instance, on what you're looking for, what your expectations are, and potentially, your date you'll be moving. Then closer to the time, we can have more of an in-depth talk about, what jobs are around and what will be, available for you. And then definitely once you arrive, can get straight into, job searches and interviews for you. I think the one really big benefit right now is everything is so virtual. You can organize interviews from, other countries as well. You just have to be aware of the time differences. But I think start to have those discussions definitely before you make the move, and it'll make it a lot less stressful for yourself.
Good point there, Maddie, about part of the reason People to People are here is because of the free trade agreement between Australia and the UK, and we've got offices in the UK, New Zealand, and Australia. So we're trying to fill that gap and almost start that process for you before you make the move to a different country, so we can help you with that. So I think that's the end of our webinar. Thank you for joining. We've had a lot of fun, and I think there's some really insightful things there to take note of. If you do want to get in contact, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation if you're looking for work in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand. And we look forward to next time. Thank you. Thanks, team.